Before we begin the story, smash that subscribe button and drop your city in the comments. Breathe deep, unwind, and savor the story. A dying stranger. $8. One impossible choice that transforms a struggling single mother's life when 10 black SUVs arrive with shocking consequences. The fluorescent lights of the convenience store flickered as Jordan Williams counted the crumpled bills in her trembling hands. $8. That was all that stood between her and absolute desperation. $8 that should have bought breakfast for her daughter tomorrow morning. She stuffed the money back into her pocket and walked toward the exit, her worn sneakers squeaking against the linoleum floor. It was nearly midnight, and the October air bit through her thin jacket as she stepped outside. The parking lot was almost empty. Just a few cars scattered under the harsh orange glow of the streetlights. That's when she heard it. Sound that made her blood run cold. Someone was struggling to breathe. Jordan turned and saw a man stumbling near a sleek black Mercedes, one hand clutching his chest, the other reaching desperately for the car door. He was tall, probably in his 50s, with silver hair and an expensive suit that screamed money and power. Even in the dim light, Jordan could see his face turning gray, his lips trembling as he gasped for air. He collapsed onto the concrete with a sickening thud. "Hey!" Jordan shouted, running toward the store entrance. "Somebody call 911. This man needs help." The store clerk, a middle-aged white man with tired eyes, appeared at the door. He took one look at the scene and shook his head. "Lady, you don't want to get involved with that guy." "What? He's dying!" "That's Vincent Calabrese," the clerk said, lowering his voice. "You know who that is. He runs half the organized crime in this city. Trust me, you help him, you're asking for trouble." Jordan stared at the clerk in disbelief. "So we just let him die?" The clerk shrugged and went back inside. Jordan stood frozen, her mind racing. Every instinct screamed at her to walk away. She had her daughter to think about, 6-year-old Destiny, sleeping peacefully at the neighbor's apartment, waiting for her mama to come home. Jordan had worked 2 jobs for 3 years straight, just to keep a roof over their heads and food in their bellies. She couldn't afford trouble. She definitely couldn't afford to get mixed up with criminals, but as she looked at the man on the ground, his chest no longer rising, his eyes rolling back, she thought about her own grandmother. 15 years ago, Grandma Rose had collapsed on a busy sidewalk downtown. People had walked past her, too afraid to get involved, too busy to care. By the time someone finally called for help, it was too late. Jordan had been 11 years old when she got that phone call. She'd never forgotten the guilt she saw in the eyes of the strangers who'd walked past, the ones who later said they wished they'd stopped. She couldn't be that person. Jordan ran back into the store, grabbed a bottle of aspirin and a bottle of water from the shelf, and threw them on the counter. "How much?" $6.50. She pulled out her $8, Destiny's breakfast money, and handed it over. The clerk gave her $1.50 in change, and she didn't wait for the receipt. She ran back outside and dropped to her knees beside the dying man. "Sir, can you hear me?" She twisted the cap off the aspirin bottle, shaking 2 tablets into her palm. "I need you to chew these. Can you do that?" His eyes fluttered open, unfocused and terrified. "Come on, stay with me." Jordan placed the tablets on his tongue. "Chew them. You're going to be okay." He chewed weakly, grimacing at the bitter taste. Jordan opened the water bottle and helped him take a small sip. "Help is coming," she whispered, though she hadn't actually called 911 yet. Her phone was nearly dead, and when she tried to dial, the call dropped. "Damn it!" She tried again. This time it went through. "Wevan, what's your emergency?" "There's a man having a heart attack at the convenience store on Malcolm X Boulevard. He's not breathing right. Please hurry. Stay on the line, ma'am. Help is on the way." Jordan set her phone down and placed her hand on the man's shoulder. His breathing was still shallow, but at least his chest was moving again. He reached up and grabbed her wrist, his grip surprisingly strong. "What's your name?" he rasped. "Jordan. Jordan Williams." "Jordan," he coughed. "You saved my life." "Not yet, but I'm trying." In the distance, sirens wailed. "Thank God." Then, seemingly out of nowhere, 2 black SUVs screeched into the parking lot. Men in dark suits jumped out, big men with hard faces and visible weapons holstered at their sides. Jordan's heart hammered in her chest. "Boss!" One of them, a younger man with sharp features and cold eyes, ran over and dropped to his knees. "Mr. Calabrese, oh God!" He looked at Jordan with a mixture of shock and suspicion. "Who are you?" "What did you do to him?" "I helped him," Jordan said, her voice steadier than she felt. "He was having a heart attack. I gave him aspirin." The young man stared at her like she'd just spoken in a foreign language. "You helped him?" "Yes. Why?" "Because he needed help." The ambulance pulled in, lights flashing. Paramedics rushed over with a stretcher and equipment, and Jordan stepped back to give them room. One of the paramedics looked at her. "Did you give him aspirin?" "Yes, 2 tablets, maybe 4 minutes ago." The paramedic nodded approvingly. "You probably saved his life." They loaded Vincent Calabrese onto the stretcher. As they wheeled him toward the ambulance, he reached out and grabbed Jordan's hand one more time. His eyes locked onto hers with an intensity that made her shiver. "Tell them Vincent sent you," he whispered. Jordan had no idea what that meant. The ambulance doors closed, and the vehicle sped away into the night. The men in suits remained, watching her with unreadable expressions. The young man who'd spoken earlier walked over to her slowly, like he was approaching a dangerous animal. "My name is Marco," he said. "I'm Mr. Calabrese's associate. He's going to want to thank you properly. Can I get your contact information?" Jordan took a step back. "That's not necessary. I just did what anyone would do." "No." Marco's voice was firm but not unkind. "Most people cross the street when they see us. Most people wouldn't have helped." He pulled out a business card, plain black with a phone number embossed in gold, and handed it to her. "Please call this number tomorrow afternoon. It's important." Jordan took the card hesitantly. She looked down at it, then back at Marco. "Who is he?" "Really?" Marco's expression softened just a fraction. "Someone important. Someone who doesn't forget kindness." He got into one of the SUVs and both vehicles drove away, leaving Jordan alone in the parking lot once again. The store clerk stood in the doorway, arms crossed, shaking his head. "You just made a big mistake, lady." Jordan didn't respond. She walked home in the dark, 2 miles through neighborhoods that seemed more dangerous than usual. With only $1.50 in her pocket and no idea what she'd just set in motion. Jordan's alarm went off at 5 a.m., same as always. She dragged herself out of bed, her body aching from yesterday's double shift. The tiny 2-bedroom apartment she shared with Destiny was quiet except for the hum of the refrigerator and the distant sound of traffic outside. She walked into the kitchen and opened the cabinet. 1 box of cereal nearly empty, half a carton of milk in the fridge. She poured what little cereal was left into a bowl for Destiny and made it stretch as far as it would go. There was nothing left for herself. Destiny came padding out of her bedroom in pink pajamas, rubbing her eyes. "Morning, Mama." "Morning, baby." Jordan kissed the top of her daughter's head and set the bowl on their small table. "Eat up. We've got to get you ready for school." Destiny ate slowly, and Jordan watched her, trying not to think about the $8 she'd spent last night, trying not to think about what the store clerk had said, trying not to think about the business card sitting on her nightstand. After Destiny finished breakfast, there was a knock at the door. Jordan frowned. It was barely 7 a.m. Who would be knocking this early? She opened the door to find Mrs. Patterson, her elderly neighbor from across the hall. The woman's face was tight with worry. "Jordan, baby," Mrs. Patterson said, her voice low and urgent. "I need to talk to you." "Good morning, Mrs. Patterson. Is everything okay?" The older woman stepped closer. "I heard you helped one of those Mafia men last night." "One of Vincent Calabrese's people." Jordan's stomach dropped. "How did you—" "Word travels fast in this neighborhood, child. What were you thinking? Those people are dangerous. You've got Destiny to think about." "He was dying, Mrs. Patterson. I had to help." Mrs. Patterson shook her head. Disappointment etched across her face. "You're too kind for your own good, Jordan. That kindness is going to get you hurt one day. Mark my words." She turned and walked back to her apartment, leaving Jordan standing in the doorway with a pit of dread in her stomach. At the laundromat where Jordan worked her morning shift, the whispers followed her. Co-workers glanced at her sideways. One woman, Rita, pulled her aside during break. "Girl, is it true? Did you really help Vincent Calabrese?" Jordan sighed. "How does everyone know about this?" "Are you kidding?" This whole neighborhood is talking about it. You're either the bravest woman I've ever met or the craziest. I just helped someone who needed help, Jordan said quietly. Rita squeezed her shoulder. I know, honey, and that's why we love you. But be careful. These aren't the kind of people you want to owe you favors. During her lunch break, Jordan pulled out the black business card. She stared at the gold phone number for a long time, before finally typing out a text message. Hi, this is Jordan Williams. Marco gave me this number. She hit send before she could change her mind. Her phone rang immediately. Unknown number. Jordan let it ring twice before answering. Hello? Ms. Williams, this is Marco. Thank you for reaching out. Mr. Calabrese would like to meet you today. Can you come to Santino's restaurant on 5th Avenue at 3 p.m.? Jordan's heart pounded. I don't know if that's a good idea. Please, Ms. Williams, it's very important. Mr. Calabrese wants to thank you personally. She thought about Mrs. Patterson's warning. She thought about Rita's concern. She thought about Destiny. But she also thought about the man lying on that parking lot pavement, his life slipping away. Okay, she heard herself say. I'll be there. Santino's restaurant was the kind of place Jordan had never set foot in before. Elegant, expensive, intimidating. As she approached the entrance at 3 p.m., she noticed 10 black SUVs parked in perfect formation along the street. Men in dark suits stood outside, hands clasped in front of them, watchful. Jordan's first instinct was to turn around and run, but Marco appeared at the door, waving her forward. Miss Williams, please come in. As she walked past the men in suits, each one nodded respectfully. It was strange, almost ceremonial. Inside, the restaurant had been completely emptied of regular customers. Every table was occupied by men and women in expensive clothing, all watching her. The room fell silent as she entered. Marco led her through the restaurant, and as she passed, people stood up. One by one they rose from their seats like a wave moving through the room. Jordan felt her breath catch. What was happening? At a private table in the back, Vincent Calabrese sat waiting. He looked much better than he had last night. Color back in his face, though he still moved carefully, like every breath hurt. When he saw her, he stood slowly. Ms. Williams, please sit. Jordan slid into the chair across from him. Her hands were shaking. How are you feeling? She asked. Alive, thanks to you. Vincent studied her face. The doctors said if you hadn't acted as quickly as you did, I'd be dead. They said the aspirin stopped the heart attack from progressing. You saved my life. I'm just glad you're okay. Marco told me you refuse money. He said you have a daughter, and you work 2 jobs. He said you used your last $8 to buy that aspirin. Jordan shifted uncomfortably. It wasn't about money. I know. Vincent leaned forward. That's exactly why I wanted to meet you. He pulled a photograph from his jacket pocket and slid it across the table. It showed a younger Vincent, standing beside a beautiful woman with warm eyes. Between them was a little girl, maybe 8 years old, with braids and a gap-toothed smile. That's my daughter, Vincent said quietly. Her name was Isabella. She died when she was 9, leukemia. We had money for the best doctors, the best treatment, but it wasn't enough. We lost her anyway. Jordan's throat tightened. I'm so sorry. Vincent's jaw clenched. After she died, I made myself a promise. Anyone who shows real kindness, especially people who have nothing but give anyway, I help them. It's what Isabella would have wanted. He reached into his jacket again and pulled out an envelope. Tomorrow morning, something's going to happen at your apartment. Don't be afraid. Just trust me. What do you mean? Vincent smiled, and for the first time it reached his eyes. You'll see. That night Jordan lay awake, staring at the ceiling. The envelope Vincent had given her sat unopened on her nightstand. She was too afraid to look inside. Destiny slept peacefully in the next room, unaware that her mother's life was about to change in ways neither of them could imagine. At dawn, Jordan woke to the sound of engines. Deep, powerful, unmistakable. She rushed to the window and looked down at her street. 10 black SUVs were parked in perfect formation. Men in suits stood beside them. A large moving truck was parked at the end of the block. Oh my God, Jordan whispered. She threw on clothes and ran outside, Destiny clutching her hand. The entire neighborhood had come out, but not out of curiosity. They looked terrified. Windows slammed shut. Doors locked. Parents pulled children inside. Mrs. Patterson stood on her porch with her phone pressed to her ear. "Yes, police. There's a gang on our street." Mr. Johnson, a man from 2 doors down, ran toward Jordan, his face red with anger. "Jordan, what the hell did you do? Why are they here?" "So you brought criminals to our street," another neighbor shouted. "Our kids live here." The crowd pressed closer, angry voices rising. Destiny started crying. "Mama, I'm scared." Jordan pulled her daughter close, her own hands shaking. "It's okay, baby." But she didn't know if that was true. Marco stepped forward, raising his hands. "Everyone, please. We're not here to cause trouble." "Then why are you here?" Mr. Johnson demanded. "We're here to help one of your own. Ms. Williams saved a life 2 nights ago. Now we're here to save hers." Silence fell over the crowd. The men began unloading boxes from the truck. Furniture, groceries, bags of clothing, toys. Marco turned to the confused neighbors. "My name is Marco. I work for the Calabrese Family Foundation, a non-profit that helps struggling families. We've been operating for 15 years. Non-profit." Someone muttered skeptically. "Wait," Mr. Johnson's expression changed. "Calabrese Foundation? You helped my brother in Philadelphia." "Robert Johnson. You paid for his daughter's medical bills when she had cancer." Marco nodded. A woman gasped. "You saved my mother's house from foreclosure 3 years ago." Another voice. "You funded the community center on 8th Street. The atmosphere shifted. Fear transformed into understanding." Mrs. Patterson's hand covered her mouth. "Lord, we judged you all wrong." Vincent stepped out of one of the SUVs, moving carefully. The crowd parted as he walked toward Jordan. He turned to face the neighbors. "I understand your fear. You saw the suits, the SUVs, and you made assumptions. That's human nature." He pointed to Jordan. "But this woman didn't see any of that. She saw a man dying and used her last $8, her daughter's breakfast money, to save my life." Complete silence. She didn't know who I was. She didn't care. She just saw a human being who needed help. Vincent's voice was thick with emotion. "That's the kind of world my daughter would have wanted me to build. Where people see people, not stereotypes." Mr. Harris, an elderly man who'd lived on this street for 40 years, stepped forward with tears in his eyes. "I judged you by your reputation, not your character. I was wrong. I'm sorry." He extended his hand. Vincent shook it firmly. One by one, neighbors approached, apologizing, shaking hands, asking questions. Mr. Johnson walked up to Jordan. "I'm sorry I yelled at you." "You were braver than all of us." Jordan couldn't find words. Vincent turned back to her. "You gave me a second chance at life. Let me give you one at a better future." He handed her the envelope she'd been too afraid to open. Inside was a check for $30,000. Jordan stared at it, unable to process what she was seeing. "For rent, medical bills, whatever you need," Vincent said. But there was more. A letter on official letterhead. "The Calabrese Family Foundation offers you the position of Community Outreach Director. Salary $65,000 per year. Full benefits including health, dental, and vision insurance for you and your daughter. Start date 2 weeks from today." Jordan's knees buckled. She sank to the ground, sobbing. Destiny knelt beside her, frightened. "Mama, why are you crying?" "Happy tears, baby. These are happy tears." The neighborhood erupted in applause. Some neighbors cried too. Car horns honked in celebration. Mrs. Patterson pulled Jordan into a tight hug. "Baby, you showed us all how to be better people." "I'm so sorry for what I said." Vincent knelt beside Jordan, wincing slightly. "There's one more thing." He pulled out a car key. "We bought your old car back from the impound lot. It's been fully repaired and detailed. It's around the corner." Jordan looked up at him through her tears. "Why? Why are you doing all this?" Vincent's eyes glistened. 15 years ago, my daughter died. I had all the money in the world, but it couldn't save her. I swore that day I would never let another family struggle the way we did. You saved my life with your last dollars. You didn't hesitate. You didn't ask for anything in return. That's exactly who we need leading our foundation. I'm nobody special." "You're wrong," Vincent said softly. "You're exactly the person we've been looking for." Marco stepped forward. "There's more. Come look." He led her to the moving truck. Inside, furniture, a new bed for Destiny, boxes of groceries, school supplies, clothing, toys, books. Jordan laughed through her tears. Overwhelmed by the impossibility of it all. This is too much. It's not enough, Vincent said. But it's a start. The men in suits began unloading everything. The neighbors, who had been terrified just an hour ago, stepped forward to help. Mr. Johnson grabbed a box. "Where do you want this?" Mrs. Patterson directed traffic. "Careful with that furniture now." Young mothers who'd locked their children inside now had them helping carry toys up the stairs. The entire street came together. Fear and prejudice transformed into community and love. Vincent stood beside Jordan as they watched the scene unfold. "Tomorrow we start planning something special. A community center right here in your neighborhood." "A community center?" "Williams' house named after you." Jordan shook her head, tears streaming. "You can't do that. I can. And I am." Destiny tugged her mother's hand. "Mama, they brought me a bike." Jordan looked at her daughter's face, pure joy, no fear, and something inside her broke open. For the first time in 3 years, she felt real hope. "Thank you," she whispered to Vincent. "You already thanked me. You saw me as a person when everyone else saw a criminal." That's all I needed. 6 months later, Williams' house stood 3 stories tall, its brick facade gleaming in the afternoon sun. The building that had once been an abandoned warehouse now housed a job training center, a food bank, an after-school program, and a medical clinic offering free services. Jordan stood in her office on the 2nd floor, looking out at the neighborhood that had become her life's mission. Her desk was covered with applications from families seeking help, single mothers, veterans, elderly people who couldn't afford medicine. Each file represented a person who needed someone to see them, really see them, the way Jordan had seen Vincent that night in the parking lot. Maya burst through the door, still in her school uniform. "Mama, guess what? I got an A on my science project." Jordan scooped her up, laughing. "That's my smart girl." Destiny was thriving. New school, new friends, an inhaler she never had to worry about running out. She had a childhood that Jordan had never been able to give her before. Marco appeared in the doorway. "Ms. Williams, we have a family downstairs. Single father, 3 kids. He lost his job, and they're about to be evicted. Can you see them?" "Of course." "Give me 5 minutes." Jordan kissed Destiny's forehead. "Go do your homework, baby. Mama's got work to do." She walked downstairs to the intake office where a black man in his 30s sat with 3 young children, all under 8 years old. His eyes were red, his shoulders slumped with exhaustion and defeat. Jordan sat across from him and smiled gently. "Hi, I'm Jordan Williams. Tell me your story." The man's name was Deshawn. He'd worked in construction for 12 years until an accident left him with a broken leg. While he was recovering, his company let him go. Now he was 2 months behind on rent with no job and no way to feed his kids. Jordan listened to every word. She saw herself in his story, the desperation, the fear, the crushing weight of poverty. When he finished, she reached across the table and squeezed his hand. "You're going to be okay. We're going to help you." Within a week, the Calabrese Family Foundation paid Deshawn's back rent, enrolled him in a job retraining program, and connected his family with the food bank. 2 months later, he had a new job in a warehouse. His kids were enrolled in the after-school program at Williams' house. He came back to thank Jordan, shaking her hand with tears in his eyes. "You gave me hope when I had none left." "No," Jordan said. "You gave yourself hope. I just opened the door." 1 year later, the anniversary celebration at Williams' house drew hundreds of people. Balloons hung from the ceiling. A banner stretched across the main hall. 1 year of hope. Jordan stood at a small podium, looking out at the sea of faces, families they'd helped, volunteers who'd given their time, neighbors who'd learned to see past their fears. Vincent sat in the front row, healthy and strong, with Marco beside him. "A year ago," Jordan began, her voice steady, "I spent my last $8 on a stranger. I didn't know who he was. I didn't care. He needed help." "That's it," the room applauded. "People told me I was making a mistake. They said I was bringing trouble into my life. And for a moment I believed them." She looked at Vincent. "But what I learned is this. Kindness is never a mistake. Even when it costs you everything. Especially then." More applause. Some people wipe their eyes. After her speech, a young woman approached Jordan. She was in her early 20s with nervous eyes. "Miss Williams, I don't know if you remember me, but you helped my family 6 months ago. My little brother had asthma. We couldn't afford his medication." Jordan searched her memory. "The Martinez family?" The young woman nodded, tears spilling. "He's healthy now. He's playing soccer." "Because of you." They hugged tightly, both crying. Mrs. Patterson, now a regular volunteer, pulled Jordan aside. "Baby, you taught this old woman that it's never too late to change your mind about people." "Thank you." That evening, after everyone had gone home, Jordan walked back to her apartment. Not the cramped, run-down place she'd lived in before, but a beautiful 3-bedroom unit that Vincent had helped her secure. As she passed a corner store, she saw a young woman sitting on the curb, head in her hands, crying. Jordan stopped. "Hey, are you okay?" The woman looked up, eyes red. "My car broke down. I don't have money for a tow. I'm supposed to pick up my kids from my mom's house, but I can't get there." Jordan opened her purse and pulled out $50. She handed it to the woman. "What? No, I can't take this." "Yes, you can," Jordan said gently. "Get your car towed. Get your kids." The woman stared at the money like it was a miracle. "I don't even know you. You don't have to." Jordan pulled out a Williams house card. "When you're back on your feet, help someone else. Pass it on. And if you need more help, call that number." The woman broke down sobbing. "I'll never forget this," Jordan smiled. "I know." She walked home, her heart full. 1 year ago, she'd been the one with nothing, the one who needed help. Now she was the one giving it. The cycle continued. Kindness creates more kindness. And somewhere, Jordan knew Isabella was watching, smiling, proud. Jordan's story began with $8 and a choice. She could have walked away. She could have listened to the fear. But she didn't. She saw a human being who needed help. And she helped. That one choice changed everything, not just for her, but for hundreds of families who found hope when they had none left. Here's the question. Who can you help today? Who needs your time, your kindness, your $8? And who have you judged unfairly? What person have you walked past because of how they looked or what you assumed about them? Jordan looked past the expensive suit and the reputation. She saw a person, not a stereotype. How many times have we judged too quickly? The answer to that question might just change someone's life. It might even change yours.